In today's relationship environment, is there a struggle between men and women, between masculine and feminine, regardless of who's in the relationship? Are you experiencing confusion and difficulty connecting in yours? Well, Dr. Ray Doktor is a clinical psychologist who focuses on communication, sexuality, and spiritual psychology. He joined me for this raw, real, and bold conversation, including subjects like the emasculation of men, why trust is so important in relationships, and then a handful of basic dating questions. 2 quick notes. 1, this conversation has no boundaries, and I think you'll find it highly entertaining, which leads me to number 2. I chose to leave this as a single video rather than dividing it up, but I did include clickable links in the notes below to help you jump to anywhere that you want. That said, I think you'll get the most out of it if you watch the whole thing. I hope you do. Please share on your social media and leave your comments below. Not only are Dr. Ray and I friends, but you do have a doctorate in clinical psychology.
Yes.
And part of what I think is cool about your practice is that you focus on teaching relationship communication,
yes,
body language, human sexuality, spiritual
everything.
Psychology. Yeah, you really have what I would call a diverse practice.
Yeah, it's basically I help couples, individuals on pre-marriage counseling to marriage counseling to people who are just newly divorced to people who just want to know why it is that they're repelling women or men. So,
see, and what I love about this is, in addition to that, you also have a penis. Am I right?
I have a penis. Real men, real. What did you call it again?
Real men, real answers. Right. So really, the only prerequisite here is that you do have the the male genitalia.
Yes,
However,
yes,
you also happen to have a doctorate in clinical psychology.
Yes.
So I'm letting you all know out there that we're gonna be sort of serious about some stuff. Well, we're gonna be really serious in the context of honesty.
Resume, I have a doctorate in clinical psychology and a penis.
See, that's
it did not give me a door.
It did end up opening a door.
It worked in a nightclub, though.
I bet it does. I bet it does. So that said, there's a couple things we're going to focus on tonight, but Ray and I got together and we talked about what some of the topics are that come up the most, both questions that come in to me as the host of this program as well as him in the professional role that he's in, and we're going to start with those. At the same time, I encourage you to send us messages at Corey Jenkins on Twitter, or you're welcome to private message me on Facebook, and my producer is going to be communicating those dynamically with us throughout the show. So that said, let's have some fun and let's get real. And Ray, there's a topic that has come up a number of times, and I appreciate you bringing this one to the program. And it's pretty straightforward, and because my audience knows that sometimes we'll talk about things that are really simple dating questions or sort of surface level questions, and other times we'll delve deep into psychological things. But people still want to know, why do a lot of attractive women not get asked out on dates, and or there is never a second date? And I know we have a graphic for this, but I thought this was kind of an interesting thing to look at. And first of all, I'm a little bit curious. Is this something that women, like attractive women, are asking?
Absolutely.
So they're kind of coming to you and saying, I'm not getting
things.
asked out as much?
I have those types of clients walking in. They're like perfect on paper, and they're saying, for some reason, I'm not being asked out, or just it doesn't lead to a second date. Or I meet male clients who actually come in there and say, I want to marry this woman. She's hot, and everything's great, but oh my God, there's no sexual polarity. There's just something not working. And so what this takes us to is just talking about sexual polarity. It talks about like how our biology operates on a primal level as far as whether or not we're going to be attracted to a person or repelled. So the way that men are attracted to women is by particular things, by pheromones, by energy, by just how she somehow invites them, meaning that through conversations and how her movement is, that somehow it's going to either pull him in or repel him. In other words, if she is operating more in masculine mode and commanding him and unconsciously emasculating him, there's a possible chance that he doesn't know where to fit. He's not intimidated by her. He doesn't know where to fit. When he tries to do something nice for her, she says, oh, don't worry, I got it. When he talks about his career, her career is much bigger than his. It's where the conversation becomes more like he's having a conversation with a buddy like you and I.
Huh.
Yeah.
So make sure I'm hearing this correctly, because it sounds to me then like if the woman, let's say she's a really attractive woman, is experiencing this and then asking why it's happening, it sounds to me like she's coming from the context of, hey, I'm pretty hot, so I should be getting asked out, or I
Absolutely.
should be getting second dates, and really not paying any attention to what we can call like her beingness during the interaction.
You know,
Fair?
here's the thing is that, and I know, and a lot of attractive women don't understand this. They're thinking, I mean, I gave him all this stuff, and he went out with a stripper girl. He went out with the hot mess. Well, the reality is that in that woman maybe made him feel more masculine. And then a lot of women will argue, well, do I have to be rescued? Do I have to be dingy? Do I have to be helpless? No, it's that if you don't show up to, like, I guess, to be received, where does he fit? A great picture to imagine. Just imagine this guy being a hunter. And he's out there, and he's so excited to see you, connect with you, and he comes back with a deer, like, to your hut. And you say, I got mine. I got it already. I mean, in time, he's not going to feel like, why am I here? You know, how can I serve you? Because I know you know this. Like, what's the most exciting thing for you to do for a woman? I mean, besides,
You might be asking the wrong guy because I'm not always, I don't always fit right into that hunter
but how about
mold.
this? But does it turn you on when you excite a woman? When you have a woman smile, does it excite you?
Yes.
Do you want to do it
absolutely.
again?
Yeah.
That's something all men have in common. It's just
Don't people have it in common though? Because honestly, I'd like to make you happy too, not sexually, but I want to do nice things for you as my friend. So I'm not even sure if if it's not just a human thing.
Well, how about this? It's like giving your gift. When you offer a gift, would you like to be received? For the most part. Not that you always have an agenda. I mean, I know you can say, well, if you have more awareness.
Well, that's kind of where I was going.
See the open perspective, but as far as energy is concerned, if you're out with a woman and you're open up the door for her and she says, don't worry, I got it. If you want to take care of her, like pay the bill, whatever, openly, she says, don't worry, I got it. In time, it's like, okay, I keep energetically being rejected. So talk about energy. Consciously, you might think that's just her. I love her. I'll accept her. I'll be aware of this. But energetically, it's not creating this loop of giving and receiving.
Well, let's take this because I'm with you here,
Yes.
and let's go another level because part of what I was thinking about in this question is, okay, I want, for more than anything, for people in the world to be as authentic as they can be. But again, when a person goes, oh, I'm being my true self or my authentic self, whatever, it's really their gauge on it, and there's no way to know for sure if that's the case. So I'm now imagining in this scenario where a woman is perhaps learning from you, and she's going, oh, wow, I see how some of my behaviors might be emasculating a man or not generating the reaction she's looking for, which is to be asked out again or to connect further somehow.
Yes.
And then there becomes this question of, well, what is the authentic her? Is it the one that did show up on that first date? And for me, what it brings me to is whether it's an attractive woman or an attractive man, I do think that there is something out there in the world where if you're this person who walks around and you're constantly getting attention, constantly being asked out, constantly, it's almost as if that part of the life experience, the social aspect of it, is a little easier. And I sometimes wonder if it then prohibits that attractive person from developing some of the skills to connect further, and then leaves that woman going, I'm not sure who I am and therefore how I want to connect. I guess, and the way I'm wrapping this up as a question to you, Dr. Ray, is what if the woman says to you, I'm pretty sure I'm being myself, and I kind of want to talk about my big job, and I want to maybe even be a little bit more masculine. How would you consult that person?
Well, the thing is that if she wants to be with a man who probably is a little bit more artistic, more feminine, it might work.
Okay.
If she, in the relationship, if it works as far as conversation is concerned, where there's flow and he's able to be receptive, it can work. But if it's where there's two masculine energies, I guess, going at the same thing, such as trying to take over, and there's this power struggle, there's when you're going to have a challenge. You see this commonly with couples who get married and have children, where she is taken over and she's in actually masculine mode. And keep in mind when I mention this, we're not talking about like the typical masculine and feminine, things that we think about. I'm talking about your essence, how you move in the world. I'm talking about yin and yang, talking about Chinese medicine.
Right. In other words, a woman doesn't have to be feminine, a man doesn't have to be masculine, but it's about figuring out what you are and then a match in a relationship.
And also, but your biology matches that. Because, for example, if a woman is in work mode, if she's taking care of kids, what she's releasing, her hormones, as far as such as her testosterone levels might even be higher for her. When a woman is actually working, believe it or not, and she's in that mode, she is actually pulling more testosterone from her adrenals. We as men have it naturally. A person who actually wants to be more focused and driven has to pull on testosterone. When a woman is taxing herself, her adrenals, it's going to make her more stressed in her body. It's not going to make her to be available naturally to want to date and to, I guess, be totally open to a man. So while it's this woman saying, I'm excited about my job, I want to talk about this job and so forth, it's that while she's saying that and that excites her, it really depends on what's going on with her body, her biology, and whether or not he's going to be attracted to her. When it comes to being in a bedroom, can she let go if he really wants to take her and ravish her and be the dominating one? When it comes to ordering food, is he okay with it? I dated someone who was a chef. She knew more about food. I didn't care. I didn't want that headache. I just want to get, my task is get to the restaurant on time, okay? That was it. It's okay. But it's where you're kind of doing this.
So it's interesting because then it really brings up a perspective, and we have about 1 minute before we go to break here, but it's like when a person then starts to look at themselves or have some level of self-awareness, then they kind of have to go, okay, do I want to try to be slightly different and see if that feels better, or do I want to keep being how I am and maybe find someone who's a better match for me?
A better fit.
Yeah. And so would you say, and now I'm asking somewhat of a professional level question, but would you say to somebody who is in that position, maybe experiment with both?
You could. I'd like to see the results.
Yeah, well, I guess I'm curious. And do you think that just because this human has a vagina, she needs to really try to let go of those testosterone-based activities, or should she go, well, I have a vagina, but maybe I want a bunch of testosterone flowing through my body?
I have to answer this later on because you said you have 1 minute, and it's because it's a long-winded answer.
All right. We'll tease you with that, and what we'll do is we'll come back from the break. We're
going to talk about vagina and testosterone.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting mix. I'm sitting here with Dr. Ray Doktor. His website is raydoktor.com. That's RAYDOKTOR.com. And if you didn't catch us before the break, we left talking about the combination of testosterone and vaginas of all things. So, but to be honest, the whole point was to talk about the roles that we're playing in relationships, and I thought that Dr. Ray brought up something really interesting, which is that a woman, a human with a vagina, if she is engaging in certain types of activities, perhaps like being really focused on things at work, then she's actually utilizing more testosterone, correct? And so I brought up the question of okay, if a person then finds out they're doing that, their choices are to either embrace it, but then find a different relationship match, or to try to change. And it made me kind of question, it really made me think of it. Well, if I'm in a woman's body, is there anything wrong with having more testosterone flowing through it?
Well, how about this, is that usually when you do see women with more testosterone, you might start seeing them being more agitated, more aggressive. It actually happens. That's why also
but is
women.
That bad?
Well, it's if you're okay with a woman who's talking down to you. I mean, I'm not.
Because it's our role. We should be the ones talking down to them.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that it's just that I know this. If a woman were to say, honey, I'm cold, and rather than versus, go chop me some wood.
But wait a minute, why is testosterone going through her body going to make her in a way that would be unacceptable for any human being to treat?
It's not unacceptable, but she might be more aggressive the way that she actually talks to you. I mean, people say this woman's being a bitch, whatever. Women who actually who get older, as they get older, their estrogen level starts to decrease, and their testosterone goes up. It's why they're able to have more casual sex. They start thinking more like a guy. Testosterone actually gives you that component of being more masculine. So if you're a masculine guy and you want a feminine woman and she is not that, then you might be repelled. And how this works in a relationship, women need to hear this. I've met many guys who are telling me how they're popping Viagra or Cialis or something because they can't keep it up. And then, yet, when they're with a woman who's more feminine, they're able to keep their erection.
It's funny. I'm almost afraid to spend more time on this because I want to get more things done. But I find this subject so interesting because I agree. Well,
the erection,
the polarity. Well, partially because I agree, guys. I'll be honest with you.
You started the show off talking about the penis, so went back to that.
I appreciate that you're following along. Yeah, well, that's a little different kind of awareness, but I'm having more and more men in my life, coming to me and telling me that they're taking various ED drugs and some of them somewhat recreationally, and I'm like, dude, if you have to take that, then you probably just don't want to have sex with whoever that person is. I honestly think that's a big part of the whole sales pitch on that. You find a bunch of married guys that really don't want to sleep with their wives anymore, and you sell them a drug that's going to let them do it.
Well, there's two thoughts about that. One is true, that there's not the polarity I'm talking about in time.
Right.
That's what I'm talking about. That's one. Two, that most men, the way that they would get an erection and get off would be by stroking it and hard. In time, you start losing the sensitivity. So men have just beat themselves basically to death. I swear to God. So when I work with men who actually have difficulty with keeping up, part of the process with, especially with their wives, is where they have to do almost like penis worship, where they don't touch it as much. They bring light to it. They heal the tissue so they're more sensitive when they're in their woman, so they can get an erection.
See, I guess, I mean, I'm no doctor, so I can say anything I want here. But like, if a guy came to me and he's like, I'm having a problem getting an erection, and I'm in this relationship with this woman, I would probably say, are you open to anything? And if he said, yeah, I'd say, let's try you with a different woman, because I bet he doesn't like her anymore. And yeah, so if we delve deeper,
it's true.
Then the polarity's probably off. But I just, I guess I question, can that be fixed? Or because like I've been in a situation like this before where
you answered your own question.
Woman,
you said, is it okay for a woman to be masculine? Fine. But what might end up happening is exactly what we're talking about in time. It's where somehow it's not working. I mean, it's literally not working.
And I agree, and I get that. And I've also experienced like the middle level where I can have sex, but I'm not enjoying like the intimacy that I think would come with someone who was more my polarity opposite.
Yes.
And my choice ultimately was just let that person go, not be with them, because I don't think that they wanted to become the match that was best for me. And there's a question that's related that's coming in from the audience, and basically saying, well, how is this going to work then in a homosexual relationship, or where someone's already at some level sort of crossing some of the boundaries that we're talking about? I guess I'm trying to figure out.
I can answer that one really quickly. So in homosexual relationships, there's still a balance of yin and yang. That's why you always will see maybe one who's a little more masculine, another person who's more yin. And it's just how it goes. And so it doesn't matter if whether it's a man who's acts more feminine or more masculine. It's how they operate in the bedroom. I mean, it could be harmonious.
So if I was going to wrap up this conversation, because when I heard the thing about I'm a woman, I have a vagina, and all of a sudden I'm pulling more testosterone in, it almost sounded wrong to me. But it really sounds like our sort of wrap-up paraphrase of this message is to understand how things are working in your body, in your life, in your relationship, and then make some choices around how those are going to work. It doesn't necessarily mean that a human with a vagina can't go do a big job or a big career. It's just she has to kind of understand what's going on with her.
Well, the negative thing about pulling more testosterone from your adrenals creates adrenal fatigue. So chronic fatigue syndrome. Or I'm not making a claim right there, but women are living shorter lives now. So as far as health is concerned, yes, it's a big issue.
All right. Well, let's do this. Let's move on to topic 2, which you touched on already, but I really want to jump into it. And it was originally brought up in the form of this question. And guys, I know we have a graphic for this. It's topic 2. Why are women more and more disappointed with men to the point of emasculating them? And the word emasculate already came up in our conversation, and I didn't jump on it because I knew we were going to get to it. But to me, this is another big topic. And I wanted to start out a little bit by saying, like, I don't personally like the way the question is phrased, because it almost makes it sound like there's a bunch of crabby little whiny men out there that are going, oh, my woman's emasculating me, when I'm such a big proponent of personal responsibility that I would say, well, hey, dude, are you really being emasculated, or are you putting off something that you could control and be responsible for onto the blame of a woman? But where do you see this come up in your consultation with clients?
Well, the thing is that it goes back kind of to originally what we talked about, women who are more masculine. See, my belief is that most women are operating that way because, like a lot of times, that how they grew up, someone didn't show up, their father didn't show up, it's how they compensated. At the end of the day, most women want to be able to feel feminine, to be able to be ravished, to be able to have a man stand up and take charge. It just, I mean, most women, if they were to admit that, they might not admit it to their sisters, they might, but the reality is that they want a man to stand up. And so what it is that they'll basically take little jabs at them to stand up, to make the call, make those executive decisions. Think about this for a moment. In relationships, who usually ends it? Is it the woman or the man?
I would think it's normally the man.
Usually the man, because a woman will just stay in that. It's all about social cohesion. Biologically, it's all her whole sense of survival is staying with the tribe, with a man, to have the protector, even if she's making her own money. So it's usually the man to make that executive decision. It's also the man who was able to kill the animal, to actually basically put things up to the edge and say, this is working or not. It's like when I see masculine energy, I see it as the tracks to give direction, and feminine energy being like the train. And so when women are working all day long and they come home and they have to set the tracks also, it burns them out. And so in time, they're like, come on, I need help. I need a team player. I love my career, but when we're in love, I want you to be able to help out. I want you to pull your own weight.
So in the context of this question, because it's almost like we jumped to the second part of the question, which is the woman being emasculating, but then they're also saying, why are women more disappointed with men? So it almost sounds like, and this is really interesting because sorry about this, mom and dad, if you're watching, but I've heard this in my own parents' story where I asked my mom about some of her marriage experiences to my father, like in the first 10 years, and she basically said, I had to step up because your father wouldn't. And it plays very much into what you're describing, and at the same time,
I'm glad you share that, by the way. Yeah, it's an example.
Yeah. Well, real men, real answers. It's I just try to be careful about who else's stuff I put out there. But when I look at that, I get it. And at the same time, where then is the responsibility on the man's part to go? It's one thing if a woman's getting disappointed based on her experience with a man, but it's another, I think, for a man then to go. I mean, to me, the most powerful choice and behavior that could be made to overcome being emasculated would then to own my masculine.
It goes both ways, yes.
And go fix this situation. And, in some ways, I don't know. I really think people should break up more often, honestly, and go try things with new people, because I think we get worn down and trust gets broken. But I mean, where does the man play a big role in this?
We just figured out your issue. Okay.
I don't know if it's my issue. I think people need more experience.
There's truth in that, but here's the thing: is if you, for example, if you don't know how you're being with women, such as you're a man who's with her so she can give you something, you feel like a needy man,
right?
And you might not be aware of that, okay?
Right.
And if you're a woman and like you're not getting your needs met, and you happen to say it in very, I don't know, just kind of passive aggressive ways, you're going to chip away at the men you're with or repel guys you maybe aren't interested in. But we're all desiring kind of the same thing, and that is where there's harmony. So it's when a woman is able to show up fully and just kind of like express what's happening in the middle of her heart. I worked with a couple last night, and the woman definitely had a lot more masculine qualities, and her man is actually very masculine. Oh. And they were in this, it's almost the beginning of the session, and they looked at each other, and she was having an issue, and she kind of talked about it and said, he just kind of blanks out, and I tell him, and I said, tell me the way you share that experience with him. And she said it more matter of fact, almost like laughing. I said, he's not going to get that. He needs to feel you. And then she just she closed her eyes, she opened up her eyes, and she went into it. And she started crying. And he started crying. He was so connected to her. He felt her pain. And it was in that moment she was able to feel like she could be vulnerable. And he felt like he was able to like take over, and he put his hand over her hand. It was a beautiful moment. And so it was that experience. It's where we have to get into our hearts. A man might have to say to his woman, I really want to take care of you. I want to be able to fit in your life. I got this. So many women get so turned on when a man is able to say, I got this. But if a man is not like confident, if he doesn't know his own path, he has no direction, he can't say that. And even if he says that, the woman can feel the lack of confidence in his voice. There's no conviction. So it's about two people showing up and knowing what that true essence means to them. And that's what creates that spark of energy and polarity.
Good stuff, Ray. We're going to go to another break here in just a second, but this is a real glimpse of what you get on this program. I am sitting here with Ray Doktor, who has a doctorate in clinical psychology, and at the same time we're talking about personal stories, and hopefully what it's creating for you is something that's a little less clinical in nature as you hear it, and maybe it's giving you some glimpses of some things that might be going on in your life. Thanks for the tweets that are coming in. We're going to start answering those after the break. I think we just stumbled on to something really big because during the break I was thinking about how has this played out in my life? And I can certainly speak to my own experience, which is being at kind of my unconscious level, not knowing exactly the roles I played from a masculine, feminine role, to delving deeply into a lot of self-awareness work, certainly getting in touch with my emotions. At some level, finding that when I was the guy learning to get in touch with his emotions, that a lot of women were giving me a lot of attention and like, oh, he's the sweet guy, he cares, he understands. And then maybe slipping a little too far into that role of sort of being the nurturing one or the listener. And what's interesting, and our conversation really stimulated this for me, is to me to go, my experience.
Did you become their friends? Did you slip into the friend zone?
No, it never goes that way for me. In fact, I'm horrible at that. It seems like what happened. I guess I don't want to get too far off topic, but really what it was like is I needed to have the experience of possibly being a little more the feminine one in the relationship in order to figure out that it did not work for me. Because number one, actually two things would happen. One, either the women would lose interest in me, which I bet doesn't surprise you, or two, I just found myself feeling crappy, literally to the point of minor depression and going, what's going wrong? And I found that because I am a compassionate person and I can be a good listener, but I'm the man in the relationship. And it made me think, though, about overall, I think there's a relationship liberation going on. I think there's a gender liberation going on. So I'm not surprised to hear that there's a lot of confusion about this. I mean, we live in Los Angeles, right, where, it's almost like every other person walking around is pretty close to balanced between masculine and feminine, or it's pretty ambiguous now who you're going to run into, whether they're gay, straight, a masculine woman, a feminine woman, a masculine man, or a feminine man.
There's a lot of straight guys who I don't know if, in the past I would think for sure they're gay.
Right.
Now, these are straight guys who are just really feminine.
Those are the ones that confuse me the most.
And by the way, whether a person's gay or straight, it has nothing to do with you being feminine or masculine. I just want to be clear with that.
Well, that's a whole nother show we'll have to do, and I do get that. I think it's confusing at a verbal level. I want to respond to some of the questions that are coming in that are around this topic, and one of those is directly. It has that how-to context to it. So, how does a woman who, let's just say, for example, she's 40, so she's been dating as an adult for 20 plus years, and it sounds like she's in the pattern of having to be the masculine one, but now she's single again and wanting to date. What are some things that woman could do to try to manually shift her way that she's been towards something that is more feminine, and hopefully to attract a more masculine man?
Well, there's many things that she could do. One is that surround herself with men, good male friends who actually are masculine. Just being around them, they're going to try to do things for her, and she might resist. She might put up blocks. And in that moment, if she has they have permission, they bring it up to her. I just try to open up the door for you. I'm trying to be nice to you. And she realizes that, like, I'll give you an example. I was at a nightclub with a woman who is a friend of mine now, and we were on a date. And she was the person, she was always having to take care of things. And she had her jacket, and I removed it from her, and she put it over on the side. And when we were dancing, she just kept looking at it. And I said, I got it. Don't worry about that. And it was so uncomfortable for her because her ex was just never on top of things. And it's just that experience. It's going to show up. What greater place to have it show up is with friends who can give you heartfelt, honest feedback. That's one. Two, it's actually, I got my business card here, and we can shout out the number. No, just kidding. Is to...
to get clients or to get dates, Ray?
Another great thing is to do yoga. Yoga is going to find the blocks in your body. Stuff's going to come up. Breathing into your body, being able to go, what is going on? Being able to relax into that control that you have. Because it's really control. You fear that if he doesn't do it right, something bad's going to happen. You're going to have to take over. It's being able to let go that you're no longer in survival mode, that you can thrive.
It's interesting.
Those are two things. I can keep going down a list.
No, that's good. That's good. Hey, you have a list there Remind me what the title is on that list.
Oh, we kind of got to it already.
We did? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure. If there's anything like that's
I thought maybe you were going to ask me directly. That was just kind of more like, some topics if you wanted to pick or something.
Okay.
I wanted to control the situation.
Dude, I need to be the masculine one here. I'm the host. Just kidding. Well, no, I'm not actually. So topic 3, and this is kind of a big shift because I think we just went from one big topic, and this is another big one too. And I really like this topic, so I hope you guys are ready. Topic 3: why is trust such a big issue for women? For example, why do women need to gather a lot of information from men to the extent that it feels like an interview? And dude, I think this is a huge topic right now. I have a feeling you and I are going to agree on part of this, but I want to have a conversation about it because I have some other male friends of mine who are able to have this level of a conversation with me. Not very many, but a couple. And we've looked at this before too, in combination with receiving feedback from women about it. And it seems so simple, but we're the larger human beings on this planet.
Yes.
So there's a perspective that very few of us can get that would be the female perspective, which is being the smaller and therefore the possibly in danger at sort of a primitive level.
Absolutely.
And to me, it absolutely translates into lack of trust or difficulty to trust, or if trust is broken, I'm not going to get it back. So, I mean, that's part of why I think trust is such a big issue. What's the first thing you would answer with?
Well, as far as trust is concerned, like you said about men being larger, on a daily basis, a lot of women fear for their life. When's the last time you thought, "Oh my God, I'm afraid"?
Rarely, and I've only thought of it because I've asked myself this question before, and maybe I'll go into a certain neighborhood or something like that, but rarely.
Yeah. So a woman might be afraid to be in a parking structure. A woman might be afraid of who's emailing her on Facebook. Certain things like that. They have more things to worry about. That's on one level. Secondly, is that their limbic system, which is the hindbrain here, is more active. That same brain is connected to fight or flight mechanisms. So whether a woman is
I have a woman's version of that in my body, by the way.
Whether a woman's being threatened by a tiger or something that's emotionally distressing, it's the same signal.
Very interesting.
So being in a relationship...
Is that what I would know if I had a doctorate in clinical psychology? I would know that?
Actually, I didn't learn that. Honestly, I didn't learn much in that program with the brain, to be honest.
Okay.
It kind of sucked. But anyway.
Don't let me interrupt your thought. That's because this is important.
So, in other words, if a woman were to just have sex with you, if a woman were to start bonding with you, that it's going to have the experience where she could lose herself, where she might make decisions based on fear.
So us as men watching this, we're going to see it as an erratic response or an overreaction when, for her, it's very real, as if she was in physical danger.
Yeah, and so asking questions allows her to feel safer about her environment, safer about you, and where she sees herself in that. Yeah.
By the way, I'm with you. I just know we're starting to light the board up here a little bit with some questions. So,
yes.
But I really want to emphasize this to those of you at home. A woman, if for example you weren't aware that this is happening, or a man, if you're having experiences with your female partners out there and wondering, why we think they're crazy, there's something that it would be very difficult for any of us men to empathize with, which would be what it's like to walk around and have to be so afraid. I remember 10 years ago, I had a girlfriend who started to travel on business, and she was going to like small to middle-sized towns, and I used to travel on business, and I said, "Oh, isn't that cool? At night you can go out and you can go for a run." And she was like, "No, I sit in my hotel room and I stay safe and watch TV." And I thought, that's not what I did. If no matter where I went, the Bronx or some neighborhood in San Francisco or wherever, I would go out for a run and explore the city. But she's like, I can't do that and feel safe. And I think I really hope that men out there can get that.
Think about this for a moment. When we rarely have women come on to us with a hidden agenda. And even if they do,
it's not going to hurt us.
It's not necessarily going to hurt us. And they're not going to be, there are some crazy women out there, but it's not like men. Men will stalk. Men will have an agenda. The nice guy could be the guy who has a shrine of all your pictures in the back of his room and is obsessing with you, and everything he's doing for you is to one day get in your pants. Women have to be more cautious. So it's like whether it's a stand-up, high-quality guy or it's Mr. Nice Guy, she has to make sure her filtering mechanisms are, working accurately.
Just before we go to our final break here, I want to make one final comment about this trust thing, because I've also learned through personal experience that when then I have showed up as a trustworthy partner and developed trust, much smaller things can break that trust than I would have thought of. And I remember a situation very significant in my life where there ended up being a text message that was sent that broke her trust as if I had slept with 10 women. And we were able to communicate effectively enough for us to go, are we both seeing this the same? Because I was like, you really, because she was able to say, I'm not trusting you anymore and I'm falling out of love with you. And I was saying, why? And she was saying, because of that text message. And I was like, this text message? This one? And she said, yeah. And our conversation, again, is really helping me just be clear about that, where it's like, you know what? It didn't occur to me as it could break that trust at that level, but it can. And I think what I'm getting from this is that, trust based on some of the most primitive levels of male versus female plays out in some other ways. And if there's times when we think women are being crazy, they're not. They're just having a slightly different experience merely based on the fact that they are in a woman's body. So
they have to take care of themselves. Yes.
Yeah, very interesting. Well, thanks for sending your messages in. We're getting some from Twitter, and here's what we're going to do. We've been pretty serious so far, and we only have about 5 to 7 more minutes of programming to go when we come back from the break. So we're going to take some of these lighthearted questions. Well, not lighthearted, but they're I'll just tell you what they are when we come back. We'll be back with you in just a couple of minutes. What I want to do is respond directly to the questions that have been produced by this program, and the good thing about it is some of them had to do with the things we've been talking about already, and some of them are just coming out of the blue. So let's get through a couple of these. One, I love this. This is from a woman, and she's saying, what does it mean if a guy tells you he's in love with you when he's drunk, but then is mute about it when sober? And it's interesting because I read this and I thought, well, my initial reaction is he was drunk, so I probably wouldn't believe a lot of that. But it also steps into this place where I've actually done this before. Yeah. I've found myself sometimes being slightly more honest when I was inebriated, but then, having to hear about it and then go, well, how do I feel about that? So, I mean, in general, I would say it warrants a follow-up conversation, and someone might be a little uncomfortable. What would you say?
I think you've answered it.
Okay. Well, exactly. Easy one then, easy one.
Yeah.
And another one that's coming in that sounds equally as simple, but the question is, Ray, does size matter?
If you're talking about penis...
let's start there.
Okay, penis.
Oh, in fact, I was watching an old episode last night of Californication.
Okay.
And one of the characters on there is pitching himself to this woman trying to sleep with her, and he's saying, I can give you a solid 5.9 inches from taint to tip, which is on the high side of average. And I thought, I think he's probably right. So with that, I'll turn it over to you.
Well, there's the thing about that is it's how sensitive a woman is and how it turns her on. And in other words, every woman's different. So if it doesn't really matter if how big it is. In fact, someone could be really big and it just stuffs you.
Right.
And there's not much friction. So it's kind of like how he moves. It's how the vagina is designed. It's like how you like it. So it's like a kiss. I mean, some people kiss really great and some don't. Some have really big tongues, some don't.
That's funny, and I think it's true.
Yes. It's an organ, and it's how it fits together.
That's very interesting.
Yes.
I'm probably revealing too much on this show. But I was on one of the dating sites, and I was sending some messages back and forth, and I was, it's basically it was Tinder, right, where you only get like a few hundred characters. So I was like, well, tell me something about yourself. And she's like, blah, 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 blah. And I would like a man who is well hung. I wrote back and I said, well, what if I'm average hung? Will that work for you? And she just writes back, LOL. I thought, I don't even know what that means, but I'm pretty sure that
I have a thought about that because of my 5.2.
Real men, real answers. I love it.
Is that some women like that type of stimulation, but I will say this, that if you know how to have energetic sex, when I say energetic sex, you can have a full body orgasm which moves in your body where it lasts. I have been with women where I've seen them last 15, 20, 30 minutes long. Seriously.
The orgasm lasts.
Orgasm.
Not the sex, the orgasm.
The orgasm, where I'm actually inside of them and I'm barely moving. Like, I'm not like pounding them like a porn star. It's like we have this flow.
I think a lot of people don't know this. I'm laughing because it's so right.
Yeah, yeah. And so when you only can have your orgasm can only reach a particular peak when it's just about genital sex. There's so much more in that. So, I mean,
I think porn is somewhat responsible for a lot of the mythology behind sex. I mean, it's true. You're not going to watch too many porns and see a guy with a little, tiny penis.
It just visually on camera, it doesn't work very well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for you guys out there, if you have a small or average sized penis, have sex with a few people and and be intimate with them, and you'll figure out that there's a bunch of different ways that people match up.
Well, I'm going to throw this out there. So I have been with women who have been tighter, and I've been women who are looser, okay? And it's never the tighter one who's always better.
Right.
That's another way to respond about it. It's been about how a woman receives me, how well she moves, the connection. So.
I also like, sorry, I think we got our booth rolling over here. But I like the analogy to the kiss, because I have found kissing to be super erotic and a huge turn on. And also I have kissed dramatically beautiful women and been like, bleh, like it's not there. And I think that was a good analogy.
I think the worst is drunk chick with a big tongue in her mouth. Smells like an ashtray. That has happened before to me. I'm like,
sometimes I don't know where to go with the show, but I can tell you we have given you real men, real answers today, and I am really appreciative too. You're right up at the top at having been the most transparent as a man on this program, or at least willing to take it the furthest down that road. I really appreciate that.
You mean talking about the 5.2?
Yeah, well, that's part of it, but also I think if I went back to the transcription, it would say something like, when I was inside her, which I appreciate. Because to me, honestly, this is the stuff where if there was more programming out there where regular people were talking about their real experiences, then I think people would learn a lot more. Do I think it's cool to write books and host seminars and do all kinds of stuff like that? Yeah, absolutely. But more and more I hear people who watch this program and they'll go, just shoot it where you guys are talking to each other, and it's as if the cameras weren't on. And by the way, you're one of the few guests I've had on who seemed like you were able to really just stay a real normal guy in the context of a studio environment with 3 people in the booth and 6 cameras.
I appreciate the compliments. Is this Mel bonding time?
Yeah, man. I mean,
I actually love you, dude. I missed you.
It's been a while, yeah. Well, we officially live like 12 miles apart, and in LA that's an hour drive, so it's hard to do.
We're doing a typical dude thing, though.
What's the typical dude thing?
Well, I find that guys sometimes have a hard time to make that time together, but maybe that's just me.
Yeah, I almost wonder if it's just a product of how busy our generation is right now. I mean, it's funny. I think you and I used to run into each other more because we had the same gym and we would cross paths there. Yeah. And I could never miss you because you had your pink fanny pack on. So.
Yeah.
By the way, not to be taken as anything other than a very strategic way to meet women, right? Didn't you tell me? They'll ask you about it, right?
Well, here, the thing is that I would never wear a cheesy fanny pack, okay? And so I have this pink one. And I just got it because I figured, it's easy, whatever, and it could be a conversation starter, whatever.
Oh, that's what you said, a conversation starter.
I don't purposely wear it to pick up girls. I mean, I honestly use it so I'm not wearing this like 1985, purple thing and just look out of style. So I have my gloves in there and a few other things, yeah.
Hey, man, like I remember you said that to me. You said, this is a conversation starter, and I thought,
with guys and girls, actually.
Well, clearly, I was asking you about it.
Guys will laugh like, dude, that's awesome. Like, guys compliment straight macho dudes with tattoos who look like they play in Anthrax will say, that's a great bag. You're so cool. You must be confident. I'm like, okay.
And by the way, for those of you out there who don't know who Anthrax is, look it up. It's more of a Generation X thing, because there are some millennials out there watching. But I'm going to start to wrap up here, Ray. People can see more about you at raydoktor.com. It's RAYDOKTOR.com, and on that website, there are a variety of services that you offer professionally, and you're certainly welcome to contact Ray and get in touch with him if you'd like to learn more. I'm also going to take you up on future projects together. This was really a pleasure to have you on the program. We will have more clips from this video if you missed anything, available on youtube.com/lifewithawareness. And any final messages for the audience that I might be leaving out, or is that pretty much covered?
This is fun. You're great at this. I always have a really great chemistry with you, You know your shit.
Let's make some more projects, man. Yeah, I figured I like having you in because you're the official expert, but I'm pretty fucking smart too.
Dr. True, and you're like the idiot.
I'd like to think that maybe like the new version of that is two pretty smart guys who are really willing to be really honest.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Hey, that's all for us today. Again, come see me at youtube.com/lifewithawareness or Dr. Ray at raydoktor, DOKTOR.com.